next time I dunk, I'm going to yell. I mean, it's kind of universal. I'm going to continue to be me, and whatever happens, happens.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and as always you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball. Well, that sure was a day of basketball. Lots of stuff happening. At times it was hard to keep up with because there was so many early games on. There was just performances coming out of literally every orifice that I could potentially imagine. There was stuff happening all over the place. Thankfully, there wasn't too much negativity happening, which is always great. No big injuries, no huge controversies, and we just got to admire just some ridiculous performances. So that's what we're going to be doing in this podcast, reviewing Wednesday's action, looking over the 10 games, then previewing Thursday's action, hoping that you guys can have some success in DFS. And I know quite a few listeners to yesterday's show cashed in. I know I dropped over 400 in a Moneyball tournament today, which still placed me outside the top 10%, and it was always shaping up as being a night where there were going to be massive scores. Thursday's one, we're not going to see those sort of high scores. There's nowhere near the value on the slate. So that changes the way that you build things, and obviously your par score is going to be a little bit different. But we'll get into all that in a little bit of time. But now,
let's get to it.
All right, we're obviously talking about the games from Wednesday, and look, if you're watching this on the video, you can see the jersey behind me. If you're listening to this, you know who the monstrous line of the night's going to be. It's not a surprise that Anthony Davis is the monstrous line of the night. He almost had it's not even rare. He almost had a 50 point, 15 rebound 5x5 game. He missed it by one block. He ended with 50 points. He had 16 rebounds, and that in itself is just a huge night. But no, he had 5 assists. He had 7 steals. He had 4 blocks. He went 16 of 17 from the free throw line. He was 50% from the field on 34 attempts. The only thing he didn't do was hit a 3. It was just a monstrous performance. I don't think there's really any other way of framing that. Now, you know that I was big on Anthony Davis in yesterday's show. I played him in, and he was ridiculously cheap over on Moneyball here. I think he was priced at only $7,000 from memory, which meant that he was owned in like 88% of lineups. It wasn't that low on the sites in the States, on FanDuel and DraftKings, but he was still a guy that I liked in all sorts of formats. I've talked about him plenty of times over the preseason with issues with injury. We know about that potential risk, but I said that I think he's going to have a monster year, and he started it off well. Yeah, he can always get hurt. We know that, but I do have a fair amount of faith, probably unplaced faith in Davis at this point, but faith nonetheless, and it paid off in a pretty significant way in that first game. I've got him in a couple of leagues, and I couldn't be happier. And I said I had him in my DFS lineup and was able to cash in a tournament using that. And that is just a huge performance from Davis. And we're not going to get 50, 16, 5, 7, and 4 every night. I think we all understand that. But with the other players who are on the Pelicans at the moment, without Drew Holiday there, he is everything to this team, and he's everything they are offensively. They don't have a huge amount of other offensive threats. While I like Etuan more, he's not a huge go-to guy. Solomon Hill's a 0 offensively. We know Omer Ashik's a 0. Tim Frazier passes, but he's not a big shooter. They just don't have offensive players, so he is going to get so much from this team. And he grab all the rebounds. He does everything, and it was awesome, and it was so fun to watch. And then the Pelicans lost. That's how bad that they were. Although, in saying that, I think Denver's going to be really good. I think Denver's got a huge chance to push into a playoff spot this year. They might struggle to do that, but I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, and we'll talk about them in a second. The waiver wire line of the night goes to the old punching bag, Roy Hibbert from the Charlotte Hornets. Now, Hibbert was in a little bit of a unique situation here. we're talking about a situation where Frank Kaminsky was ruled out before the game with that foot strain, so it's a big man out of the rotation. Cody Zeller hadn't played at all during preseason. He'd barely practiced, and it looked like he wasn't going to be ready for opening night. And they said, look, he will be, and he's going to play limited minutes. So we had no Kaminsky. We had Zeller, who played around 15 minutes. So Hibbert got over 30 minutes. And he saluted. He had 15 points and 9 rebounds. He dished 3 assists and had 5 blocks. He's a 100% free throw shooter from the free throw line in this game, and he's always been a really good free throw shooter. But there's a real significant chance that this is Roy Hibbert's best performance for the season. Zeller came on and looked awesome. And I'm a big fan of Cody Zeller. He was never going to play big minutes today. And maybe Hibbert does keep the starting job. I don't think that's the best way to go moving forward, but he's going to have a 24-ish minute role. He's not going to play 31 minutes again. He's not going to have 15 and 9 with 5 blocks probably ever again this season. A lot of things lined up for him. Zeller's minutes will ramp up in the next game. We might see Kaminsky back, and both of those things will eat into what Hibbert can do. Is he worth a look in a 12-team league? As always, it depends. Who are you dropping to get him? But just realise that a couple of things went in his direction to force him into those big minutes, and maybe that means Steve Clifford looks at it and goes, well, you know what, look what Roy Hibbert did. Maybe we can keep this going. Maybe he can keep doing that. But I would say that given the history of Hibbert over the last 2 to 3 seasons means that he probably won't. Yes, Clifford does reinvigorate guys, but there's a few other factors that we need to look at when we talk about can Hibbert have sustained value moving forward. And the answer is probably going to be no, not to this level, but as a high free throw percentage, shot blocking stream guy in a 14-team league, yeah. In a 12, I guess it depends on who you're dropping. Hey, make a move. Don't drop someone great, but make a move, and if it pans out, it pans out. This is where you can make those nice moves off the waiver wire, and then you might just end up streaming that for 3 or 4 weeks, but it could very well work out. The young gun of the night. Again, if you're watching on video, you can see over my, which shoulder? I'm always mirrored here. Over my left shoulder, which is right shoulder, you can see it. It's a Miles Turner jersey that's hanging up here because he was a monster. He was in contention for the monstrous line of the night. He had 30 points. He had 16 rebounds. He hit a 3 himself. He had an assist, but 2 steals, 4 blocks, 13 of 19 from the field, and 3 of 5 from the free throw line. He was the Pacers' number 1 offensive option in this game. He took the most shots on the team. He looked downright dominant at times. He destroyed Andrew Bogut. He was matched up against Dirk at times, Dwight Powell. These guys couldn't handle him. And, we had him pretty aggressively projected on Basketball Monster inside the top 50, I believe. Yeah, Kyle McEwen was all over this guy. He was picking him in the 30s, and I said, maybe that's a little bit high, but you had to get him in the 50s, and again, like these other performances, it's probably not going to be like this every week. But Turner, when I had Scott Agnes on the podcast doing the Pacers preview, he said, I think Turner's going to be the 1B offensive option, maybe the 2 offensive option, ahead of Alice, ahead of Thad Young, ahead of Jeff Teague, and that's exactly how it panned out on the opening night for the Pacers. He looked massive. He's got such a sky-high fantasy ceiling with the blocks, the threes, the high free throw percentage, and now his offensive game's coming in. There's going to be a lot of effusive praise in this podcast, I can tell you now. And it really starts with Miles Turner because that was a huge coming out party. And you keep up that form, you're an all-star. Now, I'm not saying that he will be an all-star, but the centers in the Eastern Conference, he's got a real shot to push for that. Everything is looking up for him. This goes back to the thing at the start of the season where people were, Al Jefferson is in, he's going to start for them. And I said it until I was blue in the face, not literally, but Al Jefferson's not going to start. He played 10 minutes today. That is going to be more of the same for Jefferson on these nights when Turner gets hot and does things. Now, there's going to be nights when Turner has some issues defensively. But Jefferson doesn't solve that. But there's going to be nights when Turner gets into foul trouble, and that's going to allow Al Jeff to get some more minutes. But in general, this is Turner's job. This is his mid-30-minute role, and it's going to continue, and he's going to be awesome. And if you're a Pacers fan, enjoy it, love it. To me, he's more likable than Paul George. Something about Paul George rubs me the wrong way in just a likability sense. Turner's the guy that I'm behind, and it was a huge performance. Now, I hate. We're going to look a little bit negative now, as we always do at this point of the show, and we're going to talk dud of the night. I never like giving it to a young guy, especially someone in his first game, but Bud Hield. When I look at dud of the night, I want to look at guys who are owned in over 70% of leagues. And Hield rightfully should be owned in basically every league as a late round pick, right? Because there's an opportunity there for him to get minutes. But Speaking of saying things that I was blue in the face about over preseason, I don't believe in Buddy Hield as a prospect. I wrote about it plenty of times. I said it plenty of times on the podcast. I don't believe he's going to be a good player. I said I think he might have a good year because of opportunity and put up some scoring stats, but I just don't think that he's going to be a good player. He could very easily prove me wrong, and I was going to say he's got time to prove me wrong, but he's already 22 or 23 years old, so a lot of his development has already happened. I'm not a huge fan of Hield, and he as I said yesterday, he farted in our mouth today. 4 points, no triples, 1 rebound. The 3 assists is nice, and he's shown that over Summer League and in preseason that he's dishing the ball a little bit more. So that's a bit of a surprise, but 2 of 8 from the field, that's going to be his issue, getting open shots and getting them in. No steals, no blocks. He's not going to be a contributor in those areas. I'm not dropping him necessarily if I'm owning him unless someone else is out there. And I've had some crazy trade suggestions sent to me today, or free agent suggestions sent to me today. Someone was like, is it okay if I drop Tristan Thompson to grab Steven Adams? What? Yes? Yes? Why is that even an option at this point? So if there's a situation like that around and a guy like Steve Adams is on your waiver wire, or you can trade Buddy Hield and get him, go ahead, do it. But let's give him a little bit more time. But it's clear that Etuan Moore was clearly superior to him, and that's what I'd been saying for quite a while as well. I don't get everything right, and there's a lot of things I don't get right, but I'm pretty confident in Hield not being a really good player. I still think that he can produce, and he is someone that we look to hold on to, but it was far from a good start, I guess, in his opening performance in the NBA. Now, I had a few people ask me about this. Yesterday, I debuted a tentative new segment, and that is the bonehead coaching decision of the night. I didn't know whether I'd get material to do it in every podcast, but here we are, episode 2, and we've got another one. And when the off season went down and a lot of the shit kicker coaches that I was not a fan of last season got their ass handed to them, it was interesting. I was like, who am I going to be able to hang shit on coming into this season? Well, Jason Kidd's going to be an option, definitely, because he's always there. I thought Earl Watson would be a guy that I'd look at. Kenny Atkinson is putting his hand up already. It's very early, but he gets the bonehead coaching decision of the night. Brook Lopez, just not involved, just invisible. Not only did Kenny Atkinson just not feature him at all and just run an offense that was really different to what they'd done in preseason, which is weird in itself when you're a young team and a new team and trying to install new systems, that you just run something completely different to what you've done in preseason and go away from the Lin and Lopez combination. That was weird in itself, but to just one of the best offensive centers in the league just completely freeze him out of your offense altogether was weird. And then you make a move and don't start him in the second half to replace him with Luis Scola, because I thought he'd give us a better matchup. Now, no offense. Now, Brook Lopez is not a good defender. He's not a good defender. Luis Scola is an actively bad defender. He's 37 years old. He's not spry. He can't jump. He can't protect the rim. He was a minus 19, the worst on the team, Scola was. Lopez was a minus 10, but he also sat out some of the time when the Nets reserves were getting them back into the game. So minus 10, it's not great. It wasn't the worst on the team. It wasn't the second worst on the team. Scola had that honour as being the worst on the team, minus 19. So the decision to A, not feature Brook Lopez as a part of the offense, and B, to sit him down. If you would have said, I'm sitting him down because I want Justin Hamilton in there because the guy's been playing well, I would have said, you know what, that's pretty shit, but I understand it. But not to put Luis Scola in there. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. But buy low. Now, this could be a situation that goes all through the season and Lopez plays 20 minutes a night and gets no touches. He had 5 rebounds or 5 points today. That could be the case. I don't think that will be the case moving forward. But his owner, and it could be you, and I own him, his owner could be panicking. And there's definite worry there. But you look at his owner, if it's not you, send out a ridiculous buy low offer. Someone's going to go, well, hey, look, they benched Lopez for Luis Scola. They benched him for a 37-year-old guy who can't move. They benched him. Give him to me for Andrew Bogut. Not really a good example. Give him to me for Buddy Hield. Give him to me for someone at the end of your roster. It might not work out. But this is the time to strike because dumb shit starts happening around this time. Now, if you own Lopez, don't succumb to the dumb shit. If someone offers you a situation where, and this is a question that someone asked me today, I've been offered Miles Turner in exchange for Brook Lopez. Yeah, sure. Accept. Quick hit it. Now, Lopez might be better, but I'm more convinced at this point that Turner's role is going to be more consistent. And we saw what he did in this opening game. And Lopez is the better player, doesn't have the highest ceiling. But if Atkinson's not going to use him, then that's a risk. That's a move that you take every day if you own Lopez. But don't sell crazy low, but attack the other owner who's got him and try and get him in a buy low situation. Just weird from Kenny Atkinson. I'd like to read into some more stuff about it tomorrow when some more stuff comes out, but a lot of Nets guys that I follow on Twitter were a bit nonplussed, I guess, as to what actually was going down with that move. But as they say, I'm not coaching. I'm not smart enough to coach. The Nets made a furious comeback, but the furious comeback was not because they didn't play Lopez. They got their ass kicked when he was sitting Lopez. All right, Lopez came back in for some of that stretch, but it wasn't like a situation where you said, oh, you know what, they just got to stick with the bench guys because they brought them back in and they're going to keep them going. They took Lopez out and continued to get smashed even more. And that's the weird and worrying thing to me. All right, let's look through these box scores now and try and dissect them in a little bit of detail. Again, there are 10 of them here. So yesterday's show was very heavily DFS focused. Today's show is going to be more seasonal stuff, and then we get to the DFS at the end. I will put a timestamp where the delineation happens between review and preview, so that if you want to skip ahead, I always download the episode. I love getting those download numbers, but if you want to skip ahead to the DFS part or the seasonal part, you can easily do that. The first game, Dallas and Indiana, our first overtime game of the season. Some huge minutes here, and not just because of the overtime. Darren Williams played 40 and he had 25, 3 and 7. He's available on waiver wires, guys. He's only 72% owned on Yahoo. You got to own him, and I've said it plenty of times. I'm not a big Darren Williams fan, especially now that the hair is back, but for where he was available in drafts and as a free guy off the waiver wire, you have to look at him. Dirk dropped 22 and 8 with 2 steals and 2 blocks. Don't count on that. And the pencil. He's a guy that everyone wanted to see how he went, and he did his standard thing, and not his standard thing being useless in preseason. He was 8 of 14 from the field. That's better than what he normally does, but he's a 48% shooter in his career. 19 and 9, but defensive stats is where he lacks. So, the pencil's a guy, Harrison Barnes, where you could have got. I have to always throw that in because a lot of people, I'll get tweets, who's the pencil? The pencil is Harrison Barnes. The pencil goes for 19 and 9. That's really great value for a guy that if you drafted in the last couple of weeks of October, you were getting outside the top 100, and he definitely does have the ceiling to get inside the top 80. Really good start from him, and he hit the game-tying 3 as well. Seth Curry fouled out in 16 minutes. JJ Barea was clearly getting favoured to him even before that. Barea played 39 minutes and went 22, 2 and 6. I think if you've got Curry in a 12-team league, he's not someone where I go, I must hold on to him just in case. He's one where I go, you know what, that spot is better off for me to just take a flyer on somebody else. And grab Roy Hibbert if I need that. Grab Justin Hamilton. Grab John Simmons. Grab someone else. I don't think Curry's a must-hold guy. Wes Matthews, 3 of 16 from the field. The Achilles curse strikes again. He will be better than this. There's no doubt about that, but he's not going to be Portland. Wes Matthews, I think that's pretty clear. 3 steals is nice, and Bogut only 20 minutes, 6 and 6 with a block, 3 assists. He will be better than this. I still think that he is a hold. To me, look, I wouldn't be dropping Bogut to get Hibbert. I would still be holding on to Bogut in that situation, but not a nice performance from him. Justin Anderson had some moments, but he's not getting enough playing time. On to the Pacers. We saw George Hill. Not George Hill. Let's try that again. We saw Paul George play 42 minutes and went 25, 8 and 6. He was really efficient, and he tends to do this in November. Starts off hot, fades a little bit. That's still a really nice performance from him. And Monte Ellis was great too, 19, 7 and 7 with 3 steals. But the thing we wanted to see is how's Jeff T going to fit in? Well, he took 15 shots, more than Paul George, more than Monte Ellis. He hit 5 of them. He had 20 points, that's good. 8 assists, that's good. 3 steals, that's good. Overall, a big tick for Jeff T. He went to the free throw line 13 times. That's probably not going to continue to happen all that often. I imagine that Paul George is going to want to take some of those shots off him. And I think you're going to see that the pecking order be George, Turner, Teague, Ellis. And that's, he played 37 minutes. We knew he was going to get more minutes than last season, and that's a really good start. And I think he just maintains that sort of value that he had. Thad Young as that fourth or fifth option, probably in the starting five now. 11, 5, and 4. I reckon that's not too far from what we expect from him. Moving forward, in the bench provided a whole lot of nothing. Joe Young came in ahead of Aaron Brooks. Well, Aaron Brooks was cleared to play, but he didn't play with that knee problem. And we saw Glenn Robinson the third come in over CJ Miles, but Miles played more than Robinson. And despite the hot preseason from Robinson, I think we'll see Miles taking that job back off Robinson pretty quickly. As for Joe Young and Aaron Brooks, I can see Young working himself into that backup point guard role for you deep league guys as the season goes along. And I mentioned Al Jefferson, only the 11 minutes, 7 and 6 in that playing time. There is no way that he is a 12-team league guy, in my opinion. The Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic. The big story here from the Miami perspective, well, there's a couple of big stories, I think. Let's start with 3 big stories. And they're not really big. They're big in the sense of if you really are looking at the Miami Heat closely. Josh McRoberts, I didn't think he'd be anywhere ready to play, but he was in uniform and ready to go and warming up. Now, he didn't get into the game at all, but interesting. They're going to look at him as a backup 4 and 5, maybe even a starting 4, because Luke Babbitt got the start today at power forward and played 19 minutes. We all thought Derek Williams was going to do that. He started most of preseason. Well, Derek Williams didn't start. In fact, he didn't play a single minute, which was weird. He was a 12-team flyer. He can fly away. You can move on. If they're not using him in the opening night, then you can move on from there. James Johnson played 25 minutes. I don't imagine he'll continue to get that sort of run. 11, 2, and 6. Pretty good night. No defensive stats, which is what you hope from Johnson, but a solid night. Goran Dragic, only 29 minutes. Now, he was battling some foul trouble, so that's the reason there. But Eric Spoelstra did come out and say that Dragic, we want to keep his minutes in the low 30s. And, that limits what he can do to a degree. You can still get him, and he's still going to be worth where you pick him in that 40-50 zone, but it's going to limit his ability to get into the top 20. Whiteside, 18, 14, 4 blocks, great. 0 or 4 from the free throw line. It's like the 3 months of him knowing how to shoot free throws is completely evaporated, and it is a bit of a concern. And I loved what we saw from Tyler Johnson. 15 and 6 with 2 steals. Really nice shooting night. He played behind Dragic. He played alongside Dragic for a little bit as well, but I thought he was really good. I thought that's a really good performance from him. Is he a 12-team league guy? Maybe. I think when Josh Richardson comes back, he cuts out of some of the 28 minutes that Johnson played and some of the 34 minutes that Dion Waiters played, and Waiters was expectedly putrid in his playing time. Waiters is not a 12-team league guy. I'd rather have Johnson over him, and I'd rather have Richardson over both of those guys. And Willie Reed with a nice 10 and 6 with a block in his backup minute. That's a deep league special, Will Reed. And if Whiteside ever goes down, you're grabbing Willie Reed in every league because he is going to play maybe only 25 minutes, but he could easily double-double in 25 minutes, because I think that if Whiteside did go down, the Heat would look to use maybe James Johnson at centre for a bit. They would use Josh McRoberts, assuming he's healthy, at centre for a bit as well. Circling back to the big story, though, is Justice Winslow with a monster breakout performance. 15, 8, and 4, 1 steal, 2 blocks. We have never seen anything like this from Winslow ever. None of his Duke statistics translated to look like this. This was a huge performance from him. Do you want to grab him? Yeah, you do. Will it continue? I'm skeptical. Nothing in preseason showed us he could do this. This could be just a situation of a one-off performance, but the minutes are going to be there. The role is going to be stable. So you look at him and you grab him. And if you've got a guy like I can't even think. Someone I just referenced before and has completely skipped my mind. Al Jefferson, Seth Curry. Yeah, I'm moving on from those guys in order to get Justice Winslow into my team. On the Magic side of things, let's look at how good that performance was from Nikola Vucevic. 17 and 14 with 3 assists and 2 steals, but let's also remember that he played 36 minutes because Bismack Biyombo was suspended. Love Vooch, he's a top 30 guy in 33 minutes, but I just fear that he's not going to get 33 minutes or the 36 that he got here. And one thing that also stood out about opening night, big minutes for so many different people. Just huge numbers for so many guys in a league that's trying to value rest. The coaches just went, who cares? Let's just play everyone as much as we can. Weird. If you can sell Vucevic after this, I would consider it, because again, I still think he's going to be valuable, and he could still be potentially a 18 and 9 guy in 27 minutes. He can still do that. But if someone buys into him being this guy that gets 36 a night and doesn't realise that Bismack's coming back, then I think you should look to take advantage of that. Aaron Gordon had us all worried in pre-season, but he looked good, 12 and 8. But 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 2 threes. That's the part that we enjoyed there. He only took 11 shots, so he took the fewer shots out of the starting 5. But the fact that he was getting involved defensively, he was handling the ball, he was passing. Now, he still doesn't look comfortable in that role, but it's a really good outing. So you grabbed him in those late rounds, mid to late rounds. I think you should be feeling pretty happy. And if you grabbed Alfred Payton, the Lord Alfred Payton, remember there's a Lord Alfred Payton t-shirt up in the t-shirt store. 16, 4 and 5 with 2 blocks and 8 from the free throw line. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw Alfred Payton going 8 from 8. Do I believe that he is a perfect free throw shooter now? Absolutely not. Can he be better? Yes, but I'm not putting a huge amount of faith in it. But I am predicting that he was going to have a pretty nice bounce back season. And the most encouraging thing is he played 38 minutes. We didn't see GJ Augustine cutting into his playing time at all. Augustine played just 17 minutes. The Magic ran an 8-man rotation. It'll be 9, I'd say, when Bismack comes back, but no CJ Watson either. Peyton ran with things. He's got a real chance to average 7.5 assists and 2 steals. That's probably his upper limit, 8 and 2. And that can be useful. And he's an aggressive rebounder. A really good last pick if you can deal with his lack of points, even though he scored 16 here. Evan Fournier, 24 and 4, 2 steals and 2 threes. Brilliant. And Serge Ibaka. Someone tweeted to me there's no way that he is the age that he says he is because he looks slow. This is such a Serge Ibaka Oklahoma City line, 14 and 7 with a block. He did take 17 shots. He only hit 6 of them. He will be better than this. I put him into the Brook Lopez. Let's see how low we can try and buy him for at the moment based on that poor performance. But he definitely didn't look great out there in that time. Mario Hezonja, not a lot for him off the bench there. The Detroit Pistons and the Toronto Raptors. Let's look at the Pistons side of things. Andre Drummond copped a smack in the mouth from Jonas Valanciunas early on. He had foul trouble and it limited him to 24 minutes. Now, he still went 16 and 6 in that time, but that's why the minutes were down. There are going to be times when this happens to Drummond where he does play limited minutes because, especially a foul trouble or the hacking situation, which wasn't a problem here. But that is the risk with Drummond in your daily fantasy stuff as well. Toby Harris dropped 22 and 5. I'm a big Toby guy, you know that. And Marcus Morris, the thing we look at that there is he only played 32 minutes, and that's sort of what we expected. They got John Lua into the game a little bit more. They barely played Stan Johnson, who has fallen completely off a cliff this season. After a promising rookie season, he just looks like a nobody at the moment. One thing that didn't happen is that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope didn't have his minutes cut. In fact, he played 39 of them and scored 4 points. 3 assists and 2 steals. He is really borderline to me as ownable. I don't have him in any leagues, I don't think. The other things we look at from this game is that Aaron Baines is clearly ahead of Boban Marjanovic at the moment. Baines played 15 and went 8 and 3. Marjanovic played 5. That's the center pecking order. And Ish Smith, he had 7 assists, great, but he also went 3 of 10 from the field for 6 points, and that is always going to be the concern. I said this until I went blue in the face, and I need to stop using that phrase now. He's great as a late pick, if you can absorb some horrendous shooting from the line and from the field and really just being there as a guy for assists. Beno Udrih, in his first game after being with the team for 2 days, played 15 minutes. So that shows you what Van Gundy likes to do with the point guards. This is a guy, Udrih, who came in and knows nothing, doesn't know the team, doesn't know the system, and he still got 15 minutes on opening night, and Smith was limited to 33 minutes. Whereas, I think that in next game you'll see maybe a 30-18 split with Smith, not going over that invisible ceiling that Van Gundy puts on all of his point guards. On the Raptors side of things, DeRozan was great, 40 points on 17 of 27 shooting. Let's not expect that to continue, but that's still a huge performance from him. The big story, though, to me, and this is something that I've been waiting 2 years for this to happen, probably more. Jonas Valanciunas. Dwayne Casey, maybe with all the increase of listeners this podcast has had over the last week, maybe Dwayno is subscribing and listening, because he unleashed him. He played him 35 minutes, and there's a couple of reasons for that. No Jared Sullinger, no Bebe Nogueira, but it shouldn't matter. Like, he should be playing this all the time. He had 15 shots, second on the team behind DeRozan, and he abused the Pistons. He abused Drummond. He went 32 and 11. He was 12 of 14 from the line. He was 10 of 15 from the field. And I look at it and I go, that's not out of the ordinary. That's not crazy for Valanciunas to be able to do that all the time. The 32 points, maybe, but nothing stands out where him going, oh, look at that. He had 7 assists and 5 blocks and 4 steals. What a weird night. He was efficient from the field, which he always is. He was efficient from the line, which he always is. He's a monster rebounder, which he was again. And he got the shots and he converted them. It makes sense. I've been saying that he can be a top 30 guy for a couple of years, and my nemesis in Toronto has been stifling my plans. Has it come to fruition? Let's hope so. Kyle Lowry, I said there's no way he's averaging 37 minutes a game this year, so he went out and averaged 38, so technically I'm not wrong, but he did play 38 minutes and was poor. 3 of 13, 10, 5 and 8 with a steal and a 3. He was a guy that I avoided in drafts. I don't think I drafted him anywhere. The 30-year-old drop-off, I don't think he's still going to get 37 minutes, and at least deferring to Valanciunas a bit, but that's fine for the Raptors. Don't be too down on Lowry, though. He's still a worthy top 25 sort of guy based on this, but maybe throw him into a buy low situation that you can try and get him, but people tend to value him pretty highly. Terrence Ross is in the rotation ahead of Norm Powell. Powell played 2 minutes. That is not something that makes me happy. Ross was okay, 4, 4, and 3, but nothing too exciting there. And with Sullinger out, the Raptors kept it very close to their chest, what they were doing with that starting position. They went with Pascal Siakam, and the word coming out was Siakam was going to play 15 minutes. Well, he played 22. He went 4 and 9 with a steal. So you deeper league guys, you 14-team leaguers, you 16-team leaguers, definitely, you need to be looking at Siakam. Is he a 12-team league guy? I don't think so, because Patterson's still going to play the majority of the minutes, and they're going to get Damari Carroll into there to play some small ball 4 as well. But Siakam looked really good. He looked like he does a lot of hustle things. He's very energetic. He looked really good. Jakob Poeltl didn't. He was 2 of 2 in his 13 minutes, and when Beben Naguera comes back, which could be the next game, I don't think that Poeltl will be in the rotation. Pat again shows that he can absorb as many minutes as possible and do nothing with them. 3 and 4 in his 26 minutes, and that's not surprising. The Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics, I already talked a little bit about this game and the weirdness of it. We had a situation where Randy Foye was out with a hamstring problem, and previously in preseason we'd seen Randy Foye start, and when he was out in preseason, Joe Harris started. So instead, Kenny Atkinson said, well, don't worry about preseason, let's just start Bojan Bogdanovic. And he did, and Bogdanovic took the most shots on the team. He has absolutely no issues with shooting every time he gets it, basically. 21 and 5, no assists, 1 steal and 1 block. So the 21 points and 3 triples is really good for him. He also has 9 of 17 shooting, and he's worth an add in a 12-team league. But he just, when you're scanning the box score and you start getting to the right-hand side of it, assuming points on the left, it just gets a little bit small, and not much is happening down that end. And that's what Bogdanovic is going to do. He's a points guy, but he's pretty empty in what he does. Joe Harris. What? Joe Harris played 25 minutes. He had 15 shots, the second most on the team. He went 16, 4, and 3 with 2 steals, 2 blocks, and 4 3-pointers. Let's chalk this up to the flukiest line of the year. He was abysmal in Cleveland. He didn't play at all in Orlando after getting traded there in the Channing Frye deal last season and broke his foot. No, so he broke his foot and was traded, didn't play. He's okay. He's not this good, though. Would I prefer him in the rotation over Randy Foye? Sure. Is he going to get 25 minutes a night? Probably not, but you want to just watch what happens, and you want to look at him in deeper leagues at this point. Justin Hamilton, I've said this a lot of times as well. He's going to produce if he gets minutes, and he got minutes. 19 and 10 with 3 triples in 25 minutes. I don't hate adding him. If you've got a crap big man on the back of your bench in a 12-team league, yeah, maybe add Hamilton. I don't think there's much there, but the chance is that they do run with him more than Lopez. There's a chance in it, which is it's so weird to say, but it's a chance, and he looked good. Trev Booker, 8, 7, and 5 with 3 steals in his 24 minutes. I think we expect more of that from him, just that decent-ish 14-team league production. Jezza Lynn, only 28 minutes for Lynn, 18, 3, and 3. Nice scoring, didn't get the assists happening, but he's going to be good. Sean Kilpatrick, 13 and 4 was nice. And my boy Luis Scola had 8 points. Now let's talk Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. Not a good night from Rondé. He played 24 minutes. He barely played in the second half. Especially when they were going on that run, he wasn't a part of that, so they went with the bench guys there. 5-2 and with 1 steal. If he's dropped and I want steals, I'm still looking at Hollis Jefferson. Does he move on to my list of potential guys that I would stream out? No, not quite, but a couple more stinkers like this after some stinkers in preseason definitely moves him down to that spot with me. I said this plenty of times in preseason as well. I just want to keep reharping on these things. You might have looked on the projections and saw that him at 65. It's not a rank. It's not, hey, pick this guy at 65. It just meant that his ability to get steals and the overall mathematical value of that, as opposed to the propensity for other players to get steals, puts him up at that level. But by no means is he the 65th best player or someone that you needed to draft at pick 65. But he will be better than this, and if I've got space and someone drops him, I'd add him just to see how it goes, because I think that he can be significantly better than this. On to the Celtics. Isaiah was great, 25, 6 and 9. Jay Crowder was also red hot, 21, 5 and 2 with 2 steals and a block. A nice performance from him. And Al Horford, this is very Al Horford, 11, 5 and 6 with 4 blocks, which is, I think he had 4 blocks in the first half, which is a really nice performance from Horford. But he just, I don't know, I feel like he still got overdrafted in a lot of situations. Avery Bradley with the 5 assists, which is something we saw him flash a bit in preseason and then not so much in other games, but a nice night there, 17, 9 and 5, taking on some of Evan Turner's playmaking role. And without Marcus Smart, we saw the minutes go to Terry Rozier, who had 28 and went 5, 3 and 3. Not a great night from Rozier, but the minutes are definitely encouraging. Gerald Green got some playing time, and Jaylen Brown, he's full of highlights, Jaylen Brown. Only 9 points, but he had a steal and 2 blocks and some huge monster jams. He's fun to watch. Is he fun to own in a 12-team fantasy non-keeper dynasty format? Probably not at this stage, but we want to watch what he can do, and he's going to be interesting to watch. And one thing that hasn't changed is Brad Stevens has no trust in his front court whatsoever. With no Kelly Olynyk, Amir Johnson played less than 20 minutes. Tyler Zeller got 16 minutes, and that's going to be an ongoing thing. They'll run Crowder at the 4, they'll run Jaylen Brown at the 4, they'll run Jonas Jerebko out there, Amir Johnson. All these guys, apart from Horford, are going to be almost impossible to own in 12-team leagues unless a rash of injuries hit. And then when Olynyk comes back, it's going to be even worse. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Memphis Grizzlies. I can't believe the Timberwolves lost this game. They were up 16-1, and they were just destroying the Grizzlies. And then the Grizzlies turned it on and said, you know what, this is 2016. Forget about grit and grind. We are just bombing, and everyone is just bombing threes. We are just going to start drilling them from everywhere. They took 24 threes, and they got back into it, and it was a gutsy win. Let's start with Minnesota. The big fear that people had, and I was included in this, is that what is Thibodeau going to do with Gorgie Dieng, and what's he going to do with Rubio? I had less fear with Rubio, but I had some concerns with Dieng, especially after the way that Thibodeau was out there basically giving a reach around to Bjelica every time he spoke about him. Bjelica played just 15 minutes here, Dieng played 34. He had 12 and 14, Gorgie, 2 steals and a block, and this is why he's got top 30 upside. If he can continue in this minute sort of role, you've got no concerns. Bjelica, 3 points, 1 rebound, 1 block. That's not good. And if you own him in a 12-team league, I didn't really think that was a great option to begin with. I wouldn't be holding him because I wouldn't have owned him in that situation. Towns was awesome, 21, 4 and 5, a steal, a block, 2 threes, great. Zachary LaVine, nice as well, 34 minutes, so he got the run we wanted, and he looked good doing it as well. Ricky Rubio got 33 minutes. Now, he only had 4 points, but we know he's not out there to shoot. What he did have was 4 rebounds and 8 assists. Didn't get the steals going, but you know what you drafted Rick Rubio for. You drafted him to get assists. You drafted him to get steals. He didn't get them there, but it's good that he got those minutes. Now, Chris Dunn looked better than he had in any other game. 8 points on effective shooting. It was 4 of 6, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. Do not confuse this for a situation where Dunn is taking the job off Rubio. It's just not happening at this point. Not much else to really report. Andy Wiggo, got to the line 14 times. Was 7 of 14 from the field, which is something that he did struggle with significantly in preseason. He hit a 3, which is great. 25, 7 rebounds, a block. Definitely a step in the right direction for Wiggo. Now, Memphis. Mike Conley struggled to get some assists in this game. He played off the ball a bit. 30 minutes for him. 24 points. Great. 4 threes. Great. 4 assists. Not too good. No steals and a block, but a really nice performance from Conley, and I'm really encouraged. What I'm more encouraged by, before I get to the bad stuff, what I'm more encouraged by is his backup. Wade Baldwin IV. You know that I was big on this guy. Well, maybe some of you don't. I was big on this guy heading into the draft. I thought he was a top 10 talent. I wanted the Bulls to pick him at 14. And then he went to a situation where I thought, this is great. Maybe the Grizzlies don't sign Conley and this guy's going to put up numbers. Well, they did re-sign Conley, but then we know what Baldwin can do defensively. He can play off the ball. He only had 7 points. but he had 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. He's insanely athletic, so while 3 steals and 3 blocks is a lot, and it's not something that can continue all the time, the way he plays means this is not totally fluky. He's aggressive on defense. He's got insane length, like huge long arms. He plays the passing lanes. He can be a steals guy. He also had 6 assists, which is great, playing off the ball next to Conley. Now, Tony Allen's out for the next week. Chandler Parsons is out for the next 2 weeks. There's minutes there. Unfortunately, 38 of those minutes went to Andrew Harrison, who was just dreadful. Now, Harrison started. Maybe he continues to start. He shouldn't. Baldwin should be the guy that's getting the 30 scrap that. I don't care who starts. Baldwin should have got 38 minutes. Harrison should have got 24 minutes. There is no reason for Andrew Harrison to play 38 minutes and go out there. He might as well have just sat in the corner and just picked his nose for all it mattered. He was useless. He was terrible. He doesn't need to be out there for that long. Baldwin needs to get more run. Now, I've had people asking me, do I add Wade Baldwin in a 12er? Maybe. Again, it always depends on who you're going to drop, but the defensive numbers and the fact that he's going to play alongside Conley and be the point guard in that situation is encouraging for him. So, yeah, I would consider it. I do really like Wade Baldwin. I've said it a lot. I really like him. He is worth a look. If it's in a 14-team league, I'm grabbing him now and let's see what happens. Marc Gasol, he's launching threes now. 18, 3 and 2 with 4 blocks and a 3. Good stuff. Only the 32 minutes, which was more than what we anticipated after they said they were going to limit his minutes, so that's positive. Zachy Randolph had 19 and 11 in under 25 minutes. He's going to launch shots. He launched a lot of threes. Well, actually, he launched 2. He hit one of them. Randolph's a useful guy at the end of your bench if he provides what you need. JaMychal Green started over him, and he was good, 12 and 7 with 2 threes and a block. So both of those guys are usable, and JaMychal Green's available in a lot of leagues. He's only owned in 26% of Yahoo leagues, and it's going to be a similar situation across other leagues. I drafted him in lots of leagues with last picks. I think you should look to add him. I think he's going to have pretty consistent numbers, not a big scorer, but nice rebounding, 3 steals, blocks, a 1-1 candidate sort of guy. I do like looking at him. And with Parsons out for the next 2 weeks, Tony Allen out for the next week, Jim Ennis got the start. James Ennis was great in the second quarter to help bring the Grizzlies back into it. 15 and 6 with 2 threes and a steal. He should be owned in 12-team leagues as well. We saw him be able to do it when he got the opportunity in New Orleans last season, and he did it again today. I don't know what more we need to see from him at this point. No Brendan Wright, no Chandler Parsons, no Tony Allen in this one, but yeah, some really encouraging signs as a Memphis fan that some of your young players or some of your cheaper signing guys are doing well. Charlotte and Milwaukee, we've talked about Hibbert, but the big news to me is Michael Kidd-Gilchrist dropping 23 and 14 and a steal and a block. Awesome. I've always said that Kidd-Gilchrist might be a bad shooter, but he provides really nice field goal percentage, and he took 18 shots and hit 10 of them to convert at 56%. Now, that might seem high, but he's a guy that can easily get you 48%. And if he's all of a sudden got this sort of an offensive role, which I'm not convinced that he does, but he's always been an aggressive rebounder for his size and a great rebounder. And if the defensive numbers are going to start to come, that they weren't awesome. Well, stealing a block is good, but it's not blow your mind Wade Baldwin good. It's awesome. I like to look at adding him. I would probably add him over Justice Winslow at this point. You know they're going to give him minutes. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA. If he had a bigger profile, he'd definitely be in the conversation, or if he actually played a full season, he'd be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. He's that good. Marvin Williams is, whatever that was from Marvin Williams last season, continued. 13 and 10 with 3 threes and a block, and Kemba had 17, 2 and 8. Nick Batum struggled. Only 9 points for Batum, but he did what he does. 2 steals, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. He was only 2 of 9 shooting. You get that to 5 of 9, and he gets 15, 6 and 7, and it looks a lot better. So I'm not worrying on Batum, but he's a guy that I'm always watching because people shit themselves if they own Batum. He has a bad, let's drop him. No, he's shit. He had 9 points. Let's get rid of him. And that's where you just sidle up to him going, how's Batum going for you? Do you want to pass him across? And then you can get some value because it's not all about points. 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals is really good. 2 of 9 shooting. If it's 5 of 9, bang, 15, 6, and 7, you're laughing. People hate Nick Batum. Maybe it's a French thing. I don't know. Cody Zeller was back. He played 14 minutes and had 15 points and had 2 blocks. I like Cody Zeller. You know I like him. I think he is 12-team worthy. He was a top 100 guy when he replaced Al Jefferson last season, and I think he can get back to that. I think he's going to take a step forward. Now, the performance from Hibbert does make it a little bit challenging, but I still really like Cody Zeller, and that's super encouraging in 14 minutes to go out there and look as good as he did. Marco Bellinelli was Sacramento Marco Bellinelli, and that's not what Charlotte wanted. 7 points in 26 minutes and not much else from the bench guys there, except Jeremy Lamb remains bad. On the Bucks side of things, Giannis. Yeah, we had some people had minor concerns in preseason. He went 31, 9, and 5 with a 1-1 and took 21 shots and hit 13 of them. So, yeah, that's a pretty impressive performance from Giannis. We saw 29 minutes out of Greggy Monroe, more than what we probably anticipated from him. 14 and 10 with a steal and 2 blocks. Maybe I'm going to be wrong on him. He was not someone I was targeting where he was getting drafted at 60s or 70s. If he dropped to the hundreds, then I'd be all over it. But that was an encouraging performance because Miles Plumlee started and played 8 minutes. Jason Kidd, you've done it again. And John Henson played 10 minutes. These guys are not good. We saw Thonmaker not in the rotation at all, but with the form of Henson and Plumlee, and the fact that they're just not good, Maker could easily jump into the rotation ahead of these guys. If you own Jabari Parker, you might be a little bit disappointed with the fact that he went 13, 6, and 3, but he was guarded by Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and that's not a good situation. So he's a significant bounce-back candidate. The Bucks decided to start Mirza Teletovic with Tony Snell out. What a real disappointment it must be to have Tony Snell out. But they started Teletovic. He had 6 and 3 in 27 minutes, and then they didn't start him in the second half because Jason Kidd, he really wants to get my goat up because he had to get Rashad Vaughn back in there. And Rashad Vaughn is he is dreadful. 2 points in 8 minutes. Their best option at the 2, and I've been saying this since the injury to Chris Middleton, it's Malcolm Brogdon. He looked the best here today. He had 21 minutes, 8, 5, and 5. He can play backup point guard as well. He can hit threes. He can distribute. He's a smart defender. He's the guy that should be there. Watch him. He's a potential 12-team league guy at some point. Mick Beasley, 2 points in 19 minutes. Not sure why he was playing as much as he did. And Dellavedova, only the 29 minutes for Dally, 11, 3, and 3. He'll be better than that. I still recommend holding on to him in a 12-team league. Now, here's where a lot of questions are going to come, and I've got them myself. The Denver Nuggets and the New Orleans Pelicans. I couldn't have said it enough times that Nikola Jokic was a risky pick because we didn't know what Mike Malone was going to do. Now, he played 21 minutes here, Jokic. 5 and 7 with 2 assists and a 3. That's not great production. It's not dreadful production, though. But he didn't play. In the second half, Yusuf Nurkic played 4 minutes for the entire second half. Didn't play the entire fourth quarter. Jokic played like 3 minutes or 3 minutes in the second quarter. 3 minutes in the third quarter and 3 minutes in the fourth quarter. Now, there's a number of reasons behind that. Malone does some dumb things sometimes. Yep, but Anthony Davis was just abusing these guys, and they didn't get on the court. And we had Ken Farid in there playing more minutes. We had Wilson Chandler, and that's the way that the Nuggets closed this, with Chandler and Farid at the 4 and 5. Will that be something that continues? Unlikely, but it's the problem with the Nuggets is they've got so many options, they can do some things. Now, I don't think that Farid's going to play more minutes than Nurkic and Jokic on most nights. He looked okay getting 14 rebounds, but it still wasn't a good performance from Kenneth Farid. 9 and 14 with 2 steals on 3 of 9 shooting and bad free throw shooting. That's not a good performance. It just really cut into what Jokic can do. If you own Jokic, you know what? There was always risk associated with it. I own him, and there's always risk associated there. It's a great buy low opportunity. See if you can attack it. Nurkic, 26 minutes, 23 and 9, 3 assists and a block. You have to love that. But you have to also question why he didn't play at all in the entire fourth quarter. But I guess Malone can go look at the scoreboard. We won. Good on ya. There's going to be nights like this. I think Nurkic is going to get these 25 to 28 minutes most nights, and I wouldn't be too concerned. My mate Will Barton dropped 22, 5, and 2 in his 35 minutes without Gary Harris around. So yeah, that's good. And he definitely should be owned until at least Harris comes back, and then I think he might fade off into a bit of obscurity. Jamal Murray only the 13 minutes here, and Jameer Nelson played over him, getting 20 minutes, going 9, 2, and 3. And Nelson had this crazy run. He got 9 points. He got them on a personal 9-0 run, and then didn't score again. So that's a little bit fluky there from Jameer. Gallo was good, 15, 3, and 2 with 3 steals, and Moutier had 11, 7, and 3. Not a great night from Moutier, only the 28 minutes for him as well, but he's a player who'll be better, and that's not a terrible performance. And the encouraging thing for Moutier is he went 7 of 8 from the line. He was only 2 of 8 from the field, But I'm more concerned about the fact that he was better from the free throw, and that's more important to me. On the Pelicans side of things, Timmy Frazier, 15, 5, and 11 in 37 minutes. He played a stack there, so he's obviously going to be great value until Drew Holiday comes back. Etuan Moore, the other starter next to him, 10 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists, a steal, a block, and 2 threes, and I think he should be owned over Buddy Hield, and that's how I look at it. Now, everyone's mate, Terrence Jones. This is the Terrence Jones we love, 6 and 3 in 18 minutes with 3 steals. I think you still probably want to hold him, but your leash should be pretty short with Terrence Jones because you know what I'm going to say. He's just not good. He's just not a good basketball player. He's not a good defender. He's an atrocious defender. He's a poor shooter. He just isn't good. Langston Galloway struggled. Lance Stevenson played 26 minutes, 8, 3, and 3. This is not a sign to go and add Lance Stevenson, and obviously we do not care about Alexia Jinsa or Omar Ashik at this point. Solomon Hill does defense and nothing else. 2, 1, and 1 in his 27 minutes. I thought that he could have some standard league value this season. It appears that might be unfounded, and he's clearly a drop candidate if there's someone else out there that you want to go and add. The Thunder and the Sixers. The Thunder almost got beaten. So I was talking about yesterday, I don't like using Russ Westbrook in this situation because it might be a blowout. Well, the Sixers almost got this victory. I still was justified in not wanting to use $12,000 on Russ Westbrook. Yeah, he went 32, 12, and 9 and almost had a triple-double, but it wasn't worth the $12,000 in a daily fantasy point of view. Still a big line, and you're wrapped if you drafted him. Great percentages. Really good start from Russ there as well, but the team struggled. Enes Kanter, this is what he does. 17 and 12 in 24 minutes. Low minutes, big double-double, good efficiency, and threw you a steal and a block just as a freebie. And you don't expect that from him all the time. So a good night from him. We saw Domantas Sabonis start. That power forward position is going to be a mess. 16 minutes for Sabonis. I think you can move on from him if you grabbed him as a flyer in a 12-teamer. 10 and 5 for Ersan Ilyasova. Same. Kanter's the value play that you want out of those players. Andre Robertson dropped 1 point. Good on you. 2 steals and a block and 7 rebounds is decent, but you can do better there. And we saw Samaj Kristen, who's the backup point guard for this team now with Cam Payne out. He had 4 points and 4 assists. So deep league guys, if he's getting 4 assists in 14 minutes, that can be useful to you. And he's going to get these minutes until Payne comes back. So look at him. Vic Oladipo, I talked about some guys that I really liked at the start in preseason. They did well. Well, Oladipo is one that I liked, and he wasn't so good. He had 10 and 5. He had a block. It's another great buy low because he went 4 of 16. So he was taking the shots. They weren't working for him. He's working himself into the situation. He didn't look great, and he only played 26 minutes, and Billy Donovan didn't get him into the game very often. But he's going to be better than this. We know he's going to be better than this, and he's not going to be a 4 of 16 shooter. This is the time to really look at buying low on him. Kyle Singler also continues to be one of the worst players in the NBA. Joffrey Lavernier out of the rotation, which was to be expected. On the Sixers, while Sergio Rodriguez gained the starting job, he was always going to be the more fantasy-friendly of those point guards, and he played 32 minutes, so add him. 12, 4, and 9 with 2 threes. He won't be this good all the time, but if he's getting those minutes, you know that you can use those assists, and he's a good 3-point shooter, add him. Bob Cove, 10 and 5 with 2 steals and 2 triples. And the big story, of course, is the process. Joel Embiid, he had a minutes limit of 20. He played 22, came back in at the end and was just awesome, really. 20 and 7. He hit a 3. He had 2 blocks. He's inefficient. He had a lot of turnovers. He was only 6 of 16. But he's awesome. If he's on your waiver wire, you know what to do. He's only owned in 80% of leagues. He has to be owned. Yes, there's risks. And the Sixers do have a back-to-back coming up this week, I believe, or maybe early next week. So there's a chance he misses one of those. But you have to own him. Jalil Okafor was going to play 12 minutes. He played 16 minutes. He went 8 and 3 with a block. I don't really see Okafor being a standard. I don't think him as a top 100 player this season, Jalil Okafor, just for the minutes issue. We saw Rashawn Holmes, 6 and 3 with 3 blocks. You know he's a block monster. The minutes will be tough for him to come by, but look at him. Dario Saric, not a good night from Saric. A poor shooting performance. 2 of 12, 5, 7, and 2. I still want to hold on to him in 12-team leagues, but been getting into a back and forth with someone on the Basketball Monster forum saying that they think that he's going to be a top 80 player this year, and I completely disagree with that. But not a good start from Saric. He will be better than this, and I still think that you should hold on to him. And we had a Source Castillo sighting. Nick Stauskas is alive. 13 points in 23 minutes, 4 rebounds. One of his best performances because he shot 5 from 6. But the thing that we note here is he's in the rotation. He's ahead of my boy Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot. He played more minutes than TJ McConnell. He played more minutes than Hollis Thompson. He won't be this good all the time, but it's his 3rd season. Maybe it is. Maybe something's clicking. He's one to watch because he can handle the ball. He can get some assists and he can hit threes. And if that starts happening, then Stauskas can have value on this team. And I think that he's got more potential than, say, Hollis Thompson. I firmly believe that. And he's clearly got more upside than Gerald Henderson at his point in his career. Now, Henderson's clearly the more superior player at this point, but Stauskas has got more upside. I still think Luwawu-Cabarrot is a guy I'd like to get in there, but some signs of life from Castillo. The Sacramento Kings and the Phoenix Suns. This was a blowout in the Kings' favour. Rudy Gay. This is what we saw from Rudy Gay before Rajon Rondo came and poisoned the situation over there. 22, 3 and 2 with 4 blocks. Good night from him. Ty Lawson played 36 minutes. Now, he wasn't awesome. 3 of 9 is not good shooting, but 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 1 3. It means he's obviously has to be owned. He's owned in 13% of leagues. I don't know what the other 87% of leagues are doing. He has to be owned for these first 2 weeks, and then you can piss him off. But you want to hold him for those first 2 when he comes back and see how he works with Collison. For now, he has to be owned. Matt Barnes was the 6th man here. So Costa Koufos started, which is a situation I don't understand. He played 13 minutes and looked average. Barnes came in and looked good. 14, 7 and 3 with 2 threes. A 14-team league, you got to look at Barnes. If he's going to be playing minutes over Omri Caspi, over Willie Cauley-Stein, which he clearly is at the moment, then you have to look at Barnes. And we know he can be a 1-1 guy. He can score a little bit. He's going to have less pressure than what he did last season. I think Barnes is someone, even in a 12-team league, I don't hate looking at him. I've been a big Barnes fan for a while. I just wasn't sure how these minutes were going to play out. But he's ahead of Caspi. He's ahead of Cauley-Stein. He's going to play more minutes than Koufos. He's the guy next to Cousins. Garrett Temple, 12, 2 and 3 in 18 minutes. Yep. Aaron Aflalo. Thanks, Aaron, for proving my point. 8 and 3 in his 26 minutes. And Ben McLemore only got the 16 minutes and had 6 points. On the Suns, Eric Bledsoe looked spry, which was great. 29 minutes for him, 16, 6 and 5 with a steal and 2 threes. Devin Booker. Not a good night from Booker, but he was plagued by foul trouble. He still had 18 points in 25 minutes. He had 2 rebounds and 3 assists, and his shooting was good. But he's a weird one to me in this sense, because we look at Devin Booker, and he goes 0 of 3 from 3. And we go, oh, he had a bad night from 3. He'll bounce back. Everything that we've seen from him in the NBA shows us that he's not a good 3-point shooter at this point. And maybe he's just not a good 3-point shooter. Maybe he's not Klay Thompson, as everyone mentions, because they both have similar hair and are light-skinned and have a similar looking face. Maybe he's not Klay Thompson. He's not the defender that Klay Thompson is. He's a better passer than Klay Thompson. And he's not the 3-point shooter that Klay Thompson is. He doesn't take anywhere near as many attempts from 3. That's just not really who he is. But a really encouraging performance in limited minutes that was troubled by fouls. The center position, 24 to Len, 23 to Chandler, 8 and 7 to Len, 8 and 10 to Chandler. That doesn't really help us in most of our leagues. Len clearly has the more upside, but if they're going to just split it down the middle, then Earl Watson, you can disappear. Marquese Chris was the first man off the bench here. 22 minutes, 7, 4 and 2 with a block. That's nice to me. He's not a 12-team league guy just at this point. And the best thing to me about this game, if you're a Suns fan, is the guy that I am really high on is Dragon Bender.
Bite my shiny metal ass.
He came in, played 12 minutes in garbage time, but had 10 points, 2 triples, 2 rebounds, and a steal. And that's exactly what you want to see from him. So that's encouraging. I still think that he's going to be the better player over Chris and one of the best players out of this draft class, either the second or third best player in this draft class. Great to see. Not going to have an impact this season, though. Brandon Knight, only the 26 minutes, but let's not read too much into it because we don't know how they're going to run a rotation when there's not foul trouble. Jared Dudley got 26 minutes. That's probably likely for him moving forward, but he's not an impact player. The last game of the night was the Rockets and the Lakers get a big victory. Jim Harden was just incredible. Again, 34, 8 and 17, a 3 and a steal. Huge from Jim. 15 of 16 from the line. I love him. Ryan Anderson, 14 and 6. 6. You got a bonus with 2 steals, and that's not something that he ever does, so that's good news. And I don't really understand what Mike D'Antoni's doing. You've got a clearly superior player at centre in Clint Capella. Nene was atrocious, he was bad defensively, and he played 22 minutes while Capella played 26. Capella looked good, he's dangerous on the pick and roll. He had 16 and 9 with a block in 26 minutes, Clint. He has to play more than this. You have to keep owning him, obviously, and the minutes should trend up because he's miles better than Nene. The guy who there was potentially a threat in the preseason, Montrezl Harrell, didn't play at all. Capella's the guy. I don't know how long it's going to take D'Antoni to realise it, but he should. Eric Gordon was nice. Trevor Ariza, standard slow start for him. And KJ McDaniels got 11 points in 12 minutes, but that's not enough playing time to justify holding in a 12-team league. Jordy Clarkson moved to the bench so that Nick Young could start, of course, because why wouldn't you? And the minutes were looking like a concern. In the end, they were a bit of a concern. He only played 25 minutes, but he scored 25 points and had 2 threes and 3 steals. So great production. Let's hope he can get those minutes back up into the 30 range. Look, his role on a good team is a sixth man, Jordan Clarkson. So I guess Walton's preparing him for that role. But when the guys ahead of him are Lou Williams, who's bad, and Nick Young, who's actively bad as well, then you can play him as a sixth man, but you need to play him more minutes than that. Julius Randle looked good, and I'll be the first to admit that because I don't like Randle. 18, 7, and 6 with a block. That's a great performance from him. Let's hope it continues for his sake and Lakers fans' sakes. While D'Angelo Russell had 20 points in his 29 minutes, 4 triples and 3 assists. A good night there. Tim Mozgov, 12 and 8. He should be owned in 12-team leagues, in my opinion, as well. Now, he only got the 22 minutes. They played Randle at the 5. Nance was in there a little bit as well, and we got some Tariq Black. Unfortunately, no Ivica Zubats, but it was some nice numbers from Mozgov, and I do think that he should be owned in most formats. Deng, not a head-to-head guy for me, and he's a back-end rotation player or back-end roster guy in a fantasy league. And Brandon Ingram, 9 points in his 24 minutes. He'll likely be good, but it's not going to be in 2016. It might be once the calendar ticks over next year. I don't think that you should really be holding on to him in a standard format where you've got daily changes or anything along those lines, because I think you're going to get more bad performances than good out of Brandon Ingram. That is the end of the recap of Wednesday's action. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to be back to look at the action from Thursday and preview it from a DFS point of view.
Now I had a dream of you on that cold September night. I had nothing left to look forward to. I thought you were all I wanted, but I never really knew just what you could do. Never want to leave you 'cause I think
Alright, we are back, guys, and we're going to be looking now at the 4-game slate for DFS for Thursday. A couple of teams here that we haven't seen play yet, so it'll be interesting to see how they go in their first time out. The first game we're going to look at is the Washington Wizards and the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks are favoured by 3.5 points here. Pretty nice total, 204.5, but it's actually the lowest total of all 4 games. So we've got some pretty high-paced games happening, which is great for a DFS point of view. Let's talk about the point guards in this one, and to me it begins and ends with Dennis Schroeder. He just signed a new extension, which is a bargain, I think, for the Hawks. 4 years, $70 million. That could work out to be a huge bargain for them moving forward. Schroeder's, he's at a decent salary, $6,500. We haven't really seen how he's going to work out in this system. It's not a bad matchup going up against John Wall. Wall's a pretty good defender, but people can get fantasy stats against him. I like Schroeder, and just as a total thing about this slate for Thursday, the value's not there. There's no value anywhere. There's hardly any high-priced guys around, so there'll be guys who are at a high salary that you go, I don't really love it, but I've just got all this cash left over. I have to use it. There's nowhere near the value. So we were seeing scores of 450, and that reminds me, actually, my mistake. Let's talk about the perfect DFS lines from Wednesdays. And then we'll get back to the Atlanta Hawks and Washington Wizards. On FanDuel, The perfect lineup gave you Isaiah Thomas 46.7 and Tim Frazier at 40.5. At shooting guard, Joe Harris 30.3 and Jim Harden at 64.1. Small forwards, Justice Winslow 34.6 and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist at 43.8. Really would have been tough to have both those guys in a lineup, I reckon. Anthony Davis almost cracked the ton, 95.7, while Gorgie Jeng went for 37.8. At centre, Miles Turner 60.7, and that gave you 454.2. Over on Moneyball today, my tournament lineup gave me 405 points. There was 1,500 people, I think, in the tournament, and I finished 120th with 400 points. On DraftKings, your lineup was Wade Baldwin IV at 34.25, Jim Harden at 70, Kidd-Gilchrist at 46, Anthony Davis at 99.5, Jonas Valanciunas at 48.25, Monte Ellis 43.25, Miles Turner 64.5, Roy Hibbert at 39.75, and that gave you 445.5 points. Let's go back now to talk about the Washington Wizards and the Atlanta Hawks. As I said, Schroeder, I think, is going to be one of the better value type plays, and there is definite risk associated with him, but just with the amount of poor options that are available across these 4 games, it's hard to ignore him, really. Johnny Wall, you might have salary left over to spend up, but at 9,400, it's a lot. Now, Schroeder is a good defender. He's a better defender than what Jeff Teague is. The Hawks are a pretty good defensive unit, and I think with Dwight Howard in there, some of their defense will improve. So at 9,400, sure, if I've got the cash around, I would look at that. But by no means is John Wall a guy that I have to plug in. Maybe he plays a couple less minutes than what he normally would as he's easing his way back from that knee surgery. To me, he's not someone that I'm really all that interested in. Trey Burke, I think that goes without saying that I'm not interested in him. Malcolm Delaney, minimum salary 3,500. We know he's going to be handling backup minutes behind Schroeder. And in a tournament, what if he gets hot? What if Schroeder struggles? What if he plays 22 minutes and drops 24 points? Yeah, fantasy points. It is a real possibility for Delaney. So he comes, if I'm spending a cheap point guard from this game for a tournament, it's Delaney. It's not Trey Burke is the guy that I'm looking at. Shooting guards, yeah, well, it's pretty bleak here. Kyle Korver at 3,800, that's not going to happen for me. It's tournament style, but yeah, look, it's cheap, and he struggled so much of last season. Brad Beal at 6,200. Now, can Beal get you 30 points? Yes, he can. Do I feel confident in him doing it? No, I don't. So that's not something that I'm really all that keen on there. Timmy Hardaway Jr. at minimum salary, no. Tomas Satoransky, we don't even know if he's going to be fully in the rotation. No, and then we're talking about a guy like Sheldon McClellan is the other shooting guard, or Marcus Thornton for the Wizards, and neither of those guys are going to be all that appealing. At small forward, Kent Bazemore, I think you have to look at him. Now, Otto Porter's done really well defensively against guys last season and has restricted their ability to get points, but with just such a paucity of options, I think that Bazemore is someone that you want to look at, and he is at 5,100. So he could be a guy that could get you 25 points, and that's going to be important on this sort of a slate. Kelly Oubre at 3,600 is a tournament play in case they go with him over Otto Porter for stretches, which definitely can help. And what else we got on here? Porter at 4,900. That doesn't really appeal to me either. Thabo Cephalosha, Mike Scott. No, and then the rookies, Torian Prince and DeAndre Bembry, I just don't think they're going to play really at all in this game, let alone enough to be DFS factors. At power forward, Andrew Nicholson. Now, he's going to play backup 4, and he's also going to play backup center. He's at minimum salary. He does have the ability to fill it up pretty quickly, and at minimum salary, I think that he can give you 18, 19 points perhaps. You know, his ceiling's maybe 22, 23, which is okay at 3,500. Might not be the best option out there, but in terms of value, I do like it. Markieff Morris at 5,600, I think he's a fair play at that price as well. I think he'll be an impactful player here too. Paulie Millsap at 8,000, not bad. Again, one of the higher price guys, so maybe you've got the cash and you can throw him in there, so I don't mind using him. And Chrissy Humphries will probably get some extra minutes as well here with Thiago Splitter out. They might not run with Eddie Tavares, and that's going to mean Humphries plays some backup center. Do I want to use him? I probably don't. Unless we hear some more information. Mike Muscala, Jason Smith, yeah, they're a fair way down the list. I like Dwight Howard. He's at 7. That's a weird sentence to say, but I do like him here. 7,500 for Dwight Howard. I think he's a guy that I will have in majority of cash games as my center. I think that he's one of the best options on the board at that position. Marcin Gortat, he's going to get some extra run with Mahinmi out, more than what I think he would get when Mahinmi's there. So at 6,500, he's worth considering, but I think you're going to have salary around, and I definitely want to get that extra $1,000 and put Dwight Howard into my squad. I apologise for this shadow that's coming in. It's so frustrating. I need to readjust my lighting setup. The next game we're going to look at is the first one for the Chicago Bulls as the Boston Celtics travel to Chicago. The Celtics off a back-to-back. They're favoured by 1.5, and the total is 210.5 points. Now, off a back-to-back is generally a concern, but they played the Nets. They didn't play many minutes, so the concern is mitigated somewhat. Now, the Celtics cut RJ Hunter. The Bulls signed him today. I don't know if RJ Hunter's going to play in this game, but that's some transactional news that went down. Point guards. Terry Rozier is at minimum salary. He didn't blow us away really with his performance today. He had 16 points, but at 3,500, if you get 16 points, I'm okay with that. And he can do a lot better. And I think going up against Rajon Rondo, I think that's going to work in his favour as well. So I like getting Rozier in here at that minimum salary if I'm spending in some other spots. I could also put Isaiah Thomas in there at $8,000. Again, it's not a great salary at $8,000, but he did drop 47 today, so that was a pretty impressive performance. And the Rondo defense, not too much of a concern for me. So I like Isaiah Thomas here as well. On the flip side, do I like Rondo? Not really. As a person, no. 7,500 for Rajon Rondo. Maybe. He's going up against his old team, obviously, but that's 2 teams ago now. So I'm not sure that I want to spend. I'd rather take 500 extra and put it on Isaiah Thomas at this point. Michael Carter-Williams won't get enough playing time, and guys like Jerrion Grant, Isaiah Cannon, and Demetrius Jackson for Boston, they're not going to see much of the court at all. At shooting guard, Avery Bradley was good today, had 34 points, and at 5,600, I think you want to consider using him. He should definitely be in the mix. Dwayne Wade at 7,000. I don't think I want to spend 7,000 on Dwayne Wade until we actually see how his role works. Maybe you look at it in a tournament, but he's far from a reliable cash game play. Denzel Valentine is going to play after his ankle problem. That's great, but it doesn't really impact us too much here. And same with Gerald Green, who looked good in flashes today, but not enough to make an impact. The small forwards, Jay Crowder had 34 today. He's at 5,500. I'm okay with backing him up again. He only played 29 minutes against the Nets, so I think he'll be pretty fresh and ready to go. He should be a good guy to look at. And 8,200 for Jim Butler. Again, you're going to have some salary around, so Butler can come in at that salary and be a guy to use it. I think he's going to want to, or the Bulls are going to want to show him what he means and give him the ball and get him going early. And I think at 8,200, he's got a real chance to drop 40 here. I don't know how efficient he'll be at doing it, but he's got a chance to be impactful. Dougie McDermott and Jaylen Brown are 2 wild card guys that I would look at in tournaments. I think they both have to be considered just because maybe Jaylen Brown gets some of that extra run and some of these shots that he takes connect, and at minimum salary he gets 20. Dougie McDermott, the Bulls need shooting. Maybe he gets hot and starts off the game hot, and we know that Hoiberg loves to go with whatever's happening at the moment. Don't worry about any plans or rotations, just whatever's happening now, let's just do it. So McDermott might get that. He doesn't provide much in other categories, but what if he gets hot and drops 17 points and hits 5 threes while doing it? Then it's interesting. The power forwards. Nick Mirotic at $5,000. You can't use him in cash. He's coming off the bench behind Taj Gibson, but he might play more than Taj Gibson. We don't think that he will. We think he'll play a little bit less. But if he gets hot, then there's big numbers from him. But you can't rely upon it. It's not a cash game situation, but he is a tournament guy that I think a lot of people will be out on, so he's worth looking at there. Taj Gibson, on the other hand, at 5,300, well, you're paying 300 more for Taj Gibson than Mirotic, and the ceiling on Mirotic is significantly higher. It's not a good play for me to use Taj at 5,300, despite his pretty strong preseason. Amir Johnson, no chance. Bob Portis, Jonas Jerebko, no thank you either. At centre, Robin Lopez is at 5,700. That's not something that makes me all that interested. And 7,000 for Al Horford. Well, he had 32 today against the Nets. I don't mind it. I think there's going to be better options out there. Again, that extra 500 that you can go and spend on Dwight Howard, I think would be money better spent. Tyler Zeller was pretty good today. I didn't really talk about him before, but he was decent. He had 25 points today, and he's at 3,800. I'm not really confident of that happening again. And Cristiano Felicio, who's overcome his neck problem, but I don't think that he's really going to get into the rotation, unfortunately, because I do like Big Chris. The next game, the LA Clippers and the Portland Trailblazers. That's better. Had them in the wrong spot. The Clippers and the Portland Trailblazers. The Clippers are favored by 2, and the total is a big 209.5 points. Let's look at the point guards. Dame Lillard dropped 55 in his first game. Matching up against Chris Paul is a different story. He's at 9,100. It's not bad. If you've got the salary around, go for it. I prefer to take Isaiah Thomas at 1,000 less, but you might have the salary, and then obviously Lillard's going to score more. But the Chris Paul defense is an issue. Chris Paul, on the other hand, gets to face Damian Lillard defense, but he's priced at 9,500. I don't think I want to spend 9,500 on Chris Paul. In fact, I'd probably rather spend 91 on Lillard, even though that he has to go against a tougher defender. The other point guards here, Austin Rivers, we're not really getting interested in using him. Ray Felton, don't think we get too interested in those guys either, or Shabazz Napier for that matter. CJ McCollum as the shooting guard, 6,900. He had a nice 31-point game that didn't quite reach value, but I think that he's a decent guy to look at. Now, the Clippers last year was tremendous against defending shooting guards. JJ Redick and Chris Paul did great jobs out there. I still think that you can use CJ here, just not with a massive amount of confidence. Speaking of no confidence, 4,600 for JJ Redick. It might look appealing on the surface, but I'm not really interested in it. And can we expect Alan Crabb to back up his 24-point performance from the other day? He's at 4,300. I don't think that I'm that interested in using Alan Crabb there. Now, he might get his 30 minutes, but yeah, I'm not all overly sold on using Crabby. Jamal Crawford at 4,800. Now, I reckon you can do better there as well. At small forward, there's a whole bunch of nothingness. Mo Harkless, Wes Johnson, Luke Marmute. Get your small forwards from another game. Power forwards. Al-Farouq Aminu is only at 4,600. Now, he didn't have the best game in the opener against the Jazz. Only had 16 points, but he can be better than that. At 4,600, I'm on board with using him as a cheap power forward option. Eddie Davis at 3,900. Played some decent minutes, got 24 in the opener, but there's just too much uncertainty there. Maybe in a tournament, but probably not. I like Blake Griffin, though, here at 8,600. It might seem expensive, but the Blazers' front court's defense is not great. Griffin can rack it up in multiple areas. I think that he is a really solid guy to have a look at. And yeah, having a Griffin-Howard foundation is not a bad way to set a lineup, I don't think. The other power forwards, Noah Vonleh looked good, but the minutes aren't there. Mo Spates, Myers Leonard, no interest. DeAndre Jordan at 8,000. He's another one you can go for if you don't want to go Dwight, or if you've got some extra money. You might get a little bit extra out of Jordan. It's a nice matchup for him as well. So look, he destroyed the Blazers really before those injuries to Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. So it's something you can definitely look at, and I think that he can tear apart a guy like Mason Plumlee pretty comfortably. Plumlee had 4.7 points in his 15 minutes against the Jazz. He should play more than that, but I wouldn't be relying upon it, so that makes him an unreliable play, and there's no other centers really worth mentioning because there's none others who are active in this game. The last game of the night, only a 4-game slate, as I mentioned, the San Antonio Spurs and the Sacramento Kings. What's wrong with my graphics? There we go. The San Antonio Spurs and the Sacramento Kings. The Spurs are favored by 9, and the total is 206 points. We're at Sacramento. They're on a back-to-back here. The Kings, obviously. Now, Kyle Anderson... no, let's go to point guards. I'm out of order. Ty Lawson's at 5,100. He had 31 points today, 5,100. Bang, you can lock him in. It's not a good matchup against the Spurs, but at 5,100, I think that's fine to go and use him. Tone Parker at 4,700. Not bad against the Warriors, but definitely not spectacular. The Kings is not an overly hard matchup against Ty Lawson. Maybe a look at Tony Parker in a tournament setting. Patty Mills was great at 4,100. He's definitely a GPP play for me, and no other point guards worth mentioning in this one. Shooting guards, Manu at 3,700. He had 21 points in the game against the Warriors. I don't think he's really all that interesting here for me. Aaron Aflalo, you know that I'm not interested there either. And Ben McLemore for Sacramento, no good. Small forwards, Kyle Anderson, back to what I was going to say before. Terrible. 9.8 points in the opener, only 22 minutes. No way you can rely upon him for cash games. Yep, you can't do that. But in a tournament, he's not going to be highly owned because a lot of that thought process of, he burned me, not using them again. low ownership. At 3,500, what if he gives you 25 points? I don't think it's that crazy to think that he could do it. Look at him. People are going to be really on Jonathan Simmons, who's at $4,000, and at $4,000 he's still a worthy investment. But in a tournament, I think he's going to be too highly owned for people to get overly interested in him. In a cash game, I like using John Simmons at $4,000. Matty Barnes at 4,300 looked great today. If he's going to play that role, that's great value at 4,300. I think he should be considered. And when we look at guys with big salaries on this day, Kawhi Leonard had 54 in the opener. He's at 8,200. I don't think he's going to play the 30. Well, he only played 32 minutes in the opener, so yeah, he could easily do that again. Kawhi at 8,200 is someone that I'm clearly behind. At power forward, LaMarcus Aldridge also had 47 in the opener. He's at 7,800. He can be considered. I think he's probably a better option than Paul Millsap, to be honest, going up against the Sacramento Kings. So I do like using him there. Omri Caspi, David Lee, Willie Cauley-Stein. I don't think they're going to trouble the scorers too much, so we can leave them out of it. And at centre, Boogie Cousins, 9,800. Not a big salary for him. Actually dropped by $200. Yes, he only played 25 minutes, but he scored 33 points in that time. He had foul trouble. I think he plays more here, and it's not easy playing in San Antonio defensively, but Pau Gasol is not Tim Duncan. So some of that historical stuff that we look at is not necessarily as applicable to the Spurs this season. Cousins is not going to be tired on a back-to-back. He only played 25 minutes. I think he is ready to go, and he should be a good guy to look at. Pau Gasol is definitely going to be a contrarian tournament option. He's at 7,100. He had 7 points in the opener. This is a better situation against the Warriors, but playing against Boogie, you get yourself into foul trouble pretty quickly, so there's no way I want Pau in a cash game. In a tournament, I would consider it, but it's still not a perfect matchup for him at this point. Costa Koufos will start, but that means nothing to me. And Dwayne Dedman, cool. We can move on from him. All right, let's now look at the picks of the day for this slate of Thursday's action. On FanDuel, I like Terry Rozier at 35. And again, if you don't know what I do here, I pick a cheap guy who's less than 5,000, a guy between 5 and 8,000, and a guy over 8,000. If there's no one I like for each position, if there's no one I like at that price range, then I just don't put anyone in there. Terry Rozier at 35, Ty Lawson at 51, and Isaiah Thomas at 8,000. They're the point guards. Shooting guards, I've got JJ Redick in there, reluctantly at 46, CJ McCollum at 6,900, and Jim Butler at 82. Small forwards, I've got Kyle Anderson at 3,500 in a tournament only, Jay Crowder at 55, and Kawhi at 82. With the power forwards, Al-Farouq Aminu's at 46, Mark Heath is at 56, and Blake Griffin's at 86. And the centers, no cheap center options. I think center and power forward are spots that you generally want to spend up for on this slate. Dwight's at 75, and Boogie's at 98. Over on DraftKings, we've got Terry Rozier at 3,300, Dennis Schroeder at 65, and Chris Paul at 88. At shooting guard, Kyle Korver at 3,300, more of a tournament play. Jim Butler at 74. Small forwards, Matty Barnes at 34, one of the most must-play guys over there, I think. Kent Bazemore at 51, and Kawhi at 84. Power forwards, Andrew Nicholson at 3,000. Minimum salary, talked about him a bit before. I think he's a tournament guy you look at. Mark Heath's at 54, Blake's at 86. And the centers, Marcin Gortat at 53, and DeMarcus Cousins at 10,300. All right, guys, we are done for today's podcast. There was obviously a lot for us to get to in today's show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you get a chance, leave a review on iTunes. It helps out tremendously. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball. There's also the Facebook page that you can follow. Instagram is redrock_bball as well. Check those out. But subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play. And if you've got iTunes, leave a review. It's the best way of supporting the podcast, unless you want to go buy a t-shirt at tpublic.com/user/redrock_bball, where you can buy the t-shirt designs. We've got 11 t-shirt designs up in the store at the moment, and more coming. And if you want a t-shirt, a specific type of t-shirt that I can do, or Sam Macy can do, who's doing some of them, let me know. If there's something that, a nickname that I give a guy, or something that I say that you go, hey, I wouldn't mind that turned into a t-shirt, let me know. I've got a list of about 4 or 5 different ones that I'm going to be working on designs for, but if there's something that you want, I can do them and do it that way. We'll see how it goes. Let me know about that. Leave a review. I've said that plenty of times. And check out the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network. Great shows all across the league. With the game starting, there's so much information across all those shows. And if you listen to them, I guarantee you won't be disappointed. We are done here, guys. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Draymond Green.